confidence and harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zeimet.
Hello and welcome to the Beverly Zeimet Show, where being the best you can be has just gotten easier. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is on the planet that you are. My guest today is Lynn Louise Larson. Wow, LLL. You're calling in from upstate New York?
Yes.
Right?
With the Golden Gate behind me.
With the Golden Gate. Yeah, because she's going to get snow up there, so she kind of wanted to, have something a little more warmer looking, right?
Yes. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the Golden Gate Bridge. That's cool out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some beautiful pictures from it at nighttime when it was all lit up and we were on a boat going under it. Oh my gosh, it was so beautiful.
Yes. So I'm in upstate New York, close to the Canadian border.
Oh, you're way up there on top. So what little town are you from up there?
I'm not from here.
Oh,
but I live here now. It's on the Finger Lakes. It's called Auburn. It's a small or rural town. So even though we're in isolation, we have lots of things to be grateful for because we have a home. We can still go outside and walk the dogs and go for runs. Like it's just, it's a completely different lifestyle than when most people think about New York, they always think city. But
exactly.
There's an entire state outside of that city. Yeah.
Right. I had an opportunity to visit upstate New York last fall when the color changes and everything. So we went across that whole northeast, which was just awesome. And we were up along that Canadian border, right? And it's like we were trying to get online and do things, and even with our phones, it would jump across to Canada, it says, oh, you're roaming. It's like, what? And so the internet was just sporadic, it'd jump across onto the States and it'd jump back over there. Oh my gosh, it was insane.
Yeah. Our internet's very risky up here right now too. So if you see me stalling out, it's because just now you froze for a little while. So if I don't answer immediately, know that I'm waiting for it to come back up.
She's thawing out.
Yes.
Okay, so Lynn, I understand you're a coach and you deal with eating disorders. Is that correct?
I wouldn't call them eating disorders because I don't like that vocabulary. It enables, it kind of encourages or enables people to think that they don't have any control over it, which we do. So what I do is I help women overcome emotional and binge eating through emotional habit reprogramming so that they can take back their confidence and trust in life and around food again. And I do that through combining ancient healing with fitness, nutrition, and subconscious reprogramming through a transformational cosmic warrior experience.
Now that was a mouthful.
That's what I do.
That's great. And it is a process. And whenever we're working with different imbalances, shall we say, right? And to be able to come back up and out of it, and we're kind of on the same belief system here when it comes to emotions, that emotions play a huge role in everything that goes on in your life, and eating is that same thing, and a lot of times it's a comfort type food, right? Or we eat because we need to stay busy doing something and we're anxious and we don't know what it is, and so we just kind of eat to try to calm that down. So there's a lot of different reasons why we eat, and it's not always just because we're hungry for substance or sustenance. We're hungry for maybe attention or love or acceptance, things like that. Have you found that to be true when you're working with your clients, as to where that hunger comes from?
Well, so I work a lot with, here's the fact, like 1 out of 10 women have experienced trauma in their life, sexual trauma.
Okay.
And that's where I come from, my personal story. So I really work with them, from where the root started from, and helping them overcome it through reprogramming. The fact is that we have experiences in life. It doesn't necessarily have to be trauma. It can be something like falling off of your bike when you're 6 years old, whatever it might be. Something happened and it hurt your feeling heart, not your physical heart, your feeling heart.
Mm-hmm.
And those emotions created ripples, which ripple out and create habits in your subconscious. And so whenever that fear, some know it as fight or flight, is triggered, instead of running from a lion like we used to do back in cavemen when it developed,
Right.
that reptilian brain,
Yes.
instead of it is emotional eating. What I find a lot of women, so women are so resilient. We are so great at masking our emotions,
Oh, yes.
hiding things down. And the person that we're really good about hiding our emotions from is ourself, like our experiences. So a lot of the times we feel like we're, quote, over the situation that might have manifested this habit, when in reality is we've just pushed it down to a point where we don't recognize it or we don't think about it as much, but it's still in our subconscious.
Right.
Right. So a lot of the times when you're working with women that are overcoming this, a lot of that starts surfacing because we're digging into that subconscious. But what they recognize straight off the board, well, I eat when I'm bored, or I eat when I'm sad, or I eat when I'm stressed out. Well, the thing is that at this point, they're not really tapped in to their emotions or their thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
They're just running on autopilot. So they're letting their thoughts, which are an illusion anyway, get the best of their emotions, which drives them into that habit, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely.
So really, the emotions are like trigger thoughts, trigger the emotions, which trigger the habit. And they're doing it so unconsciously because habits are habits. They're part of our belief system. It's just like, every woman has a routine, and they wake up in the morning and they have a routine. I don't know what it is, but brushing their teeth, going downstairs, making coffee, making the bed, whatever it is, they have a routine. But it's not like they're waking up and making conscious decisions about what they're going to do every moment. It's habit.
Right. Right.
Everything we do is habit.
Right. And it becomes that personality trait after that habit is so extended, right?
Yeah, it's part of your identity. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it is part of that identity. It becomes that you, and not necessarily the you that you want to be all the time, right? That's kind of why why I chose the theme that I did, is being that best you that you can be. So you being you can continuously grow, right? Because we have information come with us, it comes from all over, right? We're inundated with new databases all the time. So your beliefs and your productivity and your actions and everything change as you mature and you grow, and shift. You get other information that might nullify something else, right? And so it's all that shifting and changing. But it's what's stored in here that has become, as you say, that habit for so long that it's instilled on automatic pilot. Now you've got to recognize you've got an automatic pilot going here, right? What do you do to change it? But if you don't recognize it, it's never going to change.
No.
Right? And so sometimes, because like you say, we do suppress. I mean, we really have a good way of getting that right down there in that denial field that is like non-existent. So you deny you have a denial field, and it runs around in a circle, right? So when you start to regurgitate some of this stuff and really start to recognize it, it's not going to taste good, it's not going to smell good, it's not going to feel good, it's not going to look good, but it has to be recognized to come up and come out if you want that personality trait or that habit to shift into something that's going to put you into being that greatest you that you can become, because it's in you. You have that power, and you have that cell structure, whatever you want to call it. It's there if you give yourself permission to expose it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when working with eating things, because I mean, well, food is part of our daily habit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's what feeds this physical body, and so for the majority of us, it's believed that if we don't put food in, then we don't maintain life, right? And so how we put in and what we put in makes a difference, because it triggers different areas of the brain to release different chemicals and elements that also have the physical body responding to different things. So when you're working with someone and you start working through some of these trials and tribulations, because you said you took the extreme with anorexia and stuff like that. Can you explain to the audience maybe what some of these eating disorders are that we don't, for lack of words, what they are, and the depth that these have to switch, other than just maybe sugar binging or something, right?
Right. So I'm not a clinical doctor. So I don't work, I don't have medical advice. I don't work. So if there's a seriousness around like anorexia, bulimia, anything like that, people need to seek out a professional to help them, meaning a medical professional, because that's a very serious subject. Not that after going through medical attention, I can't help them, but the first and foremost is their safety. So, so I work more strictly, like my whole thing is emotional and binge eating.
Okay.
Those are the women I work with. So although binge eating can be part of bulimia, that's a condition that needs to be addressed with a medical professional, and the same with anorexia, because but at the same time, there are things that are associated on a subconscious identity level that can be addressed once they get their body health and once they can be released from medical attention, right? Mm-hmm. Because you can go and you can heal your body, like you can go and get your body healthy at the doctor and all that. But the thing is, the thoughts and the belief system that created that to begin with has not been addressed. And we can heal and move forward, but we have to do the journey from the inside. So a lot of women that I work with are coming from a chronic dieting mindset or mentality that has gotten them into yo-yo weight gain, one diet after another, because they're being sold the failed strategy of dieting. It doesn't work. It's 90%, 97% chance you're going to fail when you go on a diet. It's a build by an industry that makes $66 billion a year.
Oh my gosh.
So you've been programmed to believe that dieting is the solution, but they're not worried about your health. They're not worried about your wellness. They're worried about their bottom dollar. So if you didn't keep coming back to them for their food, for their diets, then who are they going to be selling to? Right? So what I do is I take women from that mindset. Coronavirus, I haven't been able to get my hair cut, and it's just in my eyes. But so I'm like, so what I really do is help them go do the inside work, because that's where every journey needs to be done. And even if you do have an eating disorder, you need to get your body healthy. But to be a balanced and healthy individual, you need, your intellect, you need your body, you need your spirituality, you need to have the package so that you can function at the best possible you at that moment. So you can heal your body and it can be great, but if you don't have the other two in balance, you're going to fall back into those behaviors.
Yeah, and it's so easy to slip back into it, like you say. You can go out there and and work with a medical profession so that you can get your health back, or at least start getting it back on track. But if the mindset isn't shifted, and that old belief, and again, I think, and correct me if you haven't found the same to be true with emotions and stuff, that old program is connected with self-value and self-worth, right? Mm-hmm. Which then knocks down your confidence level and your belief in yourself. So you kind of start going down this dark rabbit hole, so to speak. And you touched on something, and you said it all starts inside. It starts with us, with our own personal being, and moving into that identity. Who really are we? What really are we? Why really are we? What's that purpose in life? What do we focus on? Where am I going? What am I doing on this planet? All these different questions come into play, and they're all spewed around how we feel and how we perceive, right? And then we create actions and activities to kind of suffice so that we can have that feel good feeling, right? And so we try to live in that zone of trying to be comfortable, and we want to be accepted. People need people on this planet, right? And it's like, well, what do you have to do to feel comfortable around other people? Because you begin being something that you're not, being what you think that other person wants you to be, so that you can be what? Accepted, be a part of the group, and what does that consist of? Where is that truth and belief in yourself as to why you're striving for that to be something that you're not, right? And then what do? Then after you leave the company of others, you go home, you beat yourself up, and then start your binge eating, right? And,
although I think probably 90% of the population is walking around beating themselves up even when they're in the company of others.
Oh, yes.
They're not doing this work, they're not aware of the levels of being, so to speak. So they're on the lowest level, which is thought. So a lot of people are out there working from circumstance, and when you work from circumstance, you always revert back to those behaviors that create that circumstance.
Right. And it becomes a vicious circle. It's like, here's the merry-go-round. Stop it so I can get off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So if the women or men that are tuning in to this live begin to understand that you're operating from circumstance, and that you are not even aware most of the time of the thoughts that you're thinking, the first step is to really become aware that you're a thinking being, but those thoughts are an illusion. They're not real. What is real is your ability to think. Therefore, you can choose the thoughts that you think at any moment, which changes the whole dynamic into where you can change your emotions, change your vibe, like raise your consciousness. So you can take that freight train that has gotten away from you on a daily moment and change the momentum.
Right.
It's not always easy at first, because it's changing, once again, it's changing a thought pattern. It's changing a habit, which is in your thoughts. So it's going to take conscious and consistent practice to get you into that state of raising your thought patterns to a more like horizontal, vertical thought patterns that will raise you up, that make you happy, to take you to a place of gratitude. But I think most everyone out there, and that's why it's so important for people like us to be doing this work right now, is that everyone out there, 90% of the population is living in a state of struggle, and then you put the coronavirus on top of it and the isolation on top of it, and now they're sitting by themselves in the privacy of their own home, unaware that they're thinking the inner critic is taking over their thoughts, and they don't know what to do, and giving them options. And like, this is I think for a lot of, I never really call myself a coach because I don't know, it doesn't really resonate, but all of us people doing this work, trainers, speakers, healers, whatever you want to refer to us as, it's a really important time for us to come together and really connect so that we can touch more people and help others transform. Because let's be honest, those of us that have done the work, this isn't stressful for us. We're not in a state of panic, but it's a time for us to be able to come forth and help those that are in a calm and nurturing and loving and open way to realize, yeah, I was there once. I can tell you 10 years ago, I would have been right there with them. I would have been panicking over toilet paper and, full of fear. And it may sound like it was a long time ago to some, but 10 years doesn't seem that long ago to me. Like, I can still relate to what that would feel like.
Right. And relating to what that feels like versus being in it in the actual experience is completely different, because you've learned how to move through and delete and disconnect from the feeling that's charging the emotion. And that's the key, is how do you disconnect from that? And again, there's different techniques, hundreds of different techniques out there, and this is a time to be able to come together and to share that. So it's not like we haven't been there, right? And I personally will never ask a client to do something that I haven't already done myself, right? And so it's like, and I talk to different healers, and they all say the same thing. It's the road that you've been down, right?
Yeah.
And you start working in the field of where you needed the assistance and the help the most, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to share stories. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this show, was to be able to have women and men, but there's more women out there, and we're starting to come into our power and say, hey, we got a voice, we want to speak up, right? And that's supportive of one another. And we are 8 to 1, and you look at the population, there is a lot more of us, guys. There's a lot more of us out there, so watch out, we're coming. Yeah. And to be able to have that group support with women, and to be able to say, I'm here. Yes, I do know what it feels like, because I've been down that road. It's not the same, but it's there. And you give them a space to be able to just speak and not have that fear of somebody's going to poke a finger at me, or they feel shame. Like when you see some of these traumatic things and the sexual traumas and stuff like that, there is shame that comes with that. And to recognize that it's just an emotion. It's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing that has to be fixed, because you're not broken. All that's happened is there was an event that you allowed unknowingly to become what you thought was you, and it really isn't. And to start going past that. Sometimes it's a real struggle to get up and out of that, but know there is someone there that can help you with that, and that's not going to beat you down. You've beat yourself up enough, right? So now let's let it go, and let's go beyond that and soar, and allow that destiny of what you can be an expression of, by recognizing how you can take the charge off. And it really is just as simple. Not easy, but simple. It's like an electrical current. You have a light and it's plugged in, and as long as there's a light bulb in it that's not burned out, when you flip that switch, the light's going to come on, right? Well, that switch inside of us, when we start to feel these different emotions, somebody flipped that switch on by a smell, a word, something that triggered it, and flip that juice on, and all of a sudden you're responding to that emotion automatically. When you can recognize that you're doing that, you can unplug it, the juice that's being fed to it. That's the simple thing, is unplugging it, but giving yourself permission to say it's okay to disconnect from this. You're not disconnecting from reality. All you're doing now is giving yourself permission to not feel and give that emotion the charge anymore, because that's over and done. And now it's time to pick up the pieces and move on, right? And so how do we do that? And Lynn and I and a lot of the other people you're going to hear on these shows have been where you are. There is hope, right? And we're here to help you walk through this journey one day at a time, one step at a time, so that you can reach that point of, aha, I can keep on pulling these plugs, and it gets easier and easier every time. Have you found that to be true when you're working with a client, or when you're working with yourself, when you started on your journey, that at first it was really a struggle, and then you reached a point where it started to get easier?
Well, the way I see it is that we go through layers. So there's definitely some experiences that you can move through rather quickly and release and let go of.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's others that are, so as you go, you're having progress the whole way. And then they just get to the harder nuts, the deeper stories that have really like laid a huge foundation in your identity, in your subconscious. And that's where I've really found like those stories require the deep reprogramming. Those are the ones that the roads have been solidly made. But during the process, you can have these beautiful layers shed and get over them. The thing is for me, I just am like, there are some stories that we stop telling stop talking about, or we talk about like we're over it, that are still underlying in there, that are hard, right?
Right.
But we've been talking about them so long, or sharing about them, that we don't realize that it's still part of our identity. I'm going to get really transparent here. So I'm talking about, you could have been raped at 16, and you're 43, 49 right now, and you're like, I've worked past that, it's totally fine, blah, 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 right? And I'm coming from this background, and so you think I'm completely over those. I've gone on, I'm totally fine with it, I can talk about them without crying, I'm out to help people that have gone through it, whatever. But the fact is that as you're taking the layers off of your progress, and you're moving forward, and you're walking more and more into your power, eventually you're going to hit that foundation where that line was laid from that experience, and you're going to go, oh crap, it's still there, how do I take care of this, right? So that's what I did, and I realized I know how. Now I know how to do that. Now I know how to take women and have them reprogram that identity so it's no longer part of them. Mm-hmm. And I'm working towards my advanced certification in hypnosis to help with these deep-rooted subconscious identities. So it's not necessarily that I'm like, you can stop saying the stories, or you can feel power, like I have power over these stories, and still have that subconscious identity. And when you get there, it needs to be reprogrammed. And one thing you said is, like, there are people out there. And this is one thing that I think every woman needs to know. You can't do this alone. There's no way to do this alone. Like, so many of us are so strong, and we're like, we got this, like, we can do this, right? But we can't. You don't know. You're working at the capacity of your capabilities, so you don't know what you don't know.
That's exactly right.
Somebody like us to go in and take your hand and go, watch, here's what we're going to do. It's not going to be painful, but we're going to get you through it. You're going to feel better, but you don't know what road to take because you don't even have a map in front of you.
Yeah.
And I can say that from experience. So the first step, I believe, for any woman is to admit to herself that she needs to find somebody that can help her. Whether it's overcoming trauma and emotional eating, like I tell people, I help women overcome emotional and binge eating, but there's a reason for that. So it doesn't have to necessarily be, it's some sort of trauma that created that for them.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be sexual assault or anything, but it's whatever your pain is right now, you have to seek somebody. Go on Facebook and start looking for women that help with that. Watch their fan page for a while, see if they resonate with you, and then reach out. The second hardest thing to do, and it was the hardest thing for me, was to invest thousands of dollars into a non-tangible experience. When I joined my first mentor, it was a 12-month program, and it was tens of thousands of dollars over the course of that year. And it was the hardest thing to say, I'm worth this. It's not a new car. It's not a new car. It's not a down payment on a house. It's not like I'm not going to be eating it.
Right.
But what I tell women is, if you add up all of the frivolous expenses from what you've been, like I personally talk about like unused memberships, like gym memberships, equipment that sits unused, the amount of money people spend at liquor stores, like it's something like 3% of their income goes to alcohol. And I'm not saying these are bad things. I'm just saying, what if you reduced that? How much could you, by working with somebody like me or you, that minimizes, and you become empowered with yourself, and you're investing in yourself.
I think that's one of the hardest things, especially for women, because we are in that caretaker. We want to take care of everybody else, and so we get put on the back burner. And when we take ourselves off the back burner, we feel guilty. Yeah. Like we don't.
But look what happens to us. Yes. Look what happens. Like that we end up in emergency surgery with gallbladder problems. We get breast cancer. We get ovarian cancer. We, end up with high blood pressure and, all this stuff because we're not taking care of us. And if you end up in those situations, you're not taking care of anybody. It comes back on them to take care of you. So I'm always like, you got to take care of number one, and you have to be able to see that. Right. It's hard.
It is when you're in that, because you're always in that mother role. Whether you're a mother or not, you still have that mother role instinct that is just natural when you're in this female body, right? And to be able to let yourself know that it's worth it, I mean, I watched my mom, and there's 11 of us kids. So for her to go out and buy herself a new dress or something like this, she would be so guilt-stricken for days, and she would get migraine headaches, and she'd put herself down with migraine headache. I mean, for like 2 and 3 days at a time. They were so bad that she couldn't function. And then she'd end up taking whatever it is that she had given to herself back because she couldn't handle the guilt. And, I didn't know what that was then, until later in life. And it's like, oh my gosh, and how many of us are out there that have done that very same thing, right? And so we do without, and that's not what it's all about. And again, it's like we feel like we have to take care of everybody else, but if we forget here, how we take care of ourselves is how we take care of everybody else. Right? So you can't give more out of yourself than what you've given into yourself. So if you want to be a better caregiver, if you want to be a better wife, if you want to be a better lover, if you want to be a better whatever that is, you've got to have that 100% within. And that's finding out who you are, what makes you tick, and become that essence of who you are. And to be able to ask, oh my gosh, I think that was probably the hardest thing for me, was to ask for help, because asking to me always meant no, because I would get told no more than whatever, than getting assistance, right? And so that no thing, it was like, if you want it done, you do it yourself. Nobody can do it better than me, right? And so why ask? And when I did start asking, it was like, when someone would ask me to do something, I would do it. If I committed to doing it, it would be right there on the spot. Okay, I'd take charge and go ahead and do it. And I expected that from everybody else. When I asked for assistance in whatever that was, it was like, now, not tomorrow, not 5 minutes from now, not next week, now, in the moment. And I found myself a lot of times, when I did ask and they did commit to it, and I continued what I was doing, whatever, and then that wasn't getting done, I wouldn't ask a second time. I would just do it. And then I'd get feedback. Well, what'd you do that for? I was going to do it. And it's like, I had to start communicating at this point and say, if I'm asking you to do something, I'm asking for it to happen now, not later. That's just me. So if I'm asking, it's in the moment. And that was on me because I didn't specify when I wanted it. So I had to get more, indigenous on that. Just this is what I want. And that's that open line of communication, be able to speak what you want. And not be pushy about it, but to just, this is what I want. This is what I need. This is what I'm asking for in the moment. But it is a difficult thing to ask because we don't, again, it goes back into that feeling worthy that someone will do something for us. And then to just say, when someone does something for us out of the ordinary, you didn't ask for it, they just, out of the kindness of their heart, did, to just say, thank you, and leave it alone. That was probably a hard lesson to learn, too, just to say, thank you. And not feel that there were strings attached to it, or that now you got to one-up them. It's not that. Start to recognize what that difference is. When someone is giving from the heart, or if someone is giving because they have an alternative motive and looking to get something back, right? And you know that. There's that instinctiveness that right? And so you have the choice to receive it or to not receive it. But really understand how it was given and in the manner it was given. And just say, thank you. And especially a compliment, right? Yeah, sometimes that's really hard to say. When I say, wow, your hair looks really beautiful today. Or it's like, oh, well, thanks, right? Instead of saying, I just threw it together or something. Don't make it less than what it is, right?
Yeah, receiving is really difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And if you can't receive on a number of levels in your life. And like, if you're struggling with emotional and binge eating, I can guarantee you that there's other areas in your life you're struggling with. It could be money, it could be your marriage, your work, something. But when you're coming from a state of lack and circumstance, and a lack of self-worth, then if you're having a problem accepting a compliment from a friend, then I can guarantee you have a really difficult time receiving a really good paycheck from a boss.
Oh, that's probably true. That's probably true. Yeah.
Your momentum you're receiving is cut. You're not allowing in the abundance that we came to this planet to experience in this life. We came here to eat the best foods and travel the earth and read the best books and listen to beautiful music, create wonderful art or go and see wonderful art. If you can't receive what is here in bounty that you came to earth to be part of, you've separated yourself from that. And really, like in my programs, that's one thing that we address, like your ability to receive. Self-worth, self-love, all this goes back to self-acceptance. And you need to accept who you are right now.
Right.
That's really hard for a lot of women because they've stopped dreaming. They don't really understand like desire anymore because they've disconnected, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, they've unplugged from everything, and they're just living in this 3D reality, which is so minimal compared to what we have the capabilities of really walking into in this lifetime, in this physical body. But I go into like, you have to be able to self accept. That's going to allow you to take, you know, all the beautiful things that are around you and receive them,
Right.
because then you feel you're worthy of it.
Exactly.
And that's when stuff starts coming in. So if you're getting passed over at one after another at a profession, it's because you need to take 100% responsible for what you get in this life. And I'm not talking about hustle. I'm not talking about working harder to make more money. I'm talking about, what was your role in that? And is it energetic? Is it that you don't have the ability to receive because you've hit this level of self, like imposter syndrome, like, I don't know, I can't do this, I'm not worthy of a new profession or whatever. Like, you really have to look, how am I creating this?
Mm-hmm.
What am I thinking inside? How is my alignment affecting the outcomes of the things that I desire? Because we are always committed to something. It's just if we're committed to the things that move us forward,
Or keep us stagnant or move us backwards, right? Right.
you can't help but expand.
Yeah.
But what direction are you expanding?
Exactly. Because there's 4 directions to go, right? Right. And then we look at that word limit, limit, where do we put our limitations on how we're being and where we're going and what we're doing and our dreams, right? Like,
Mhm.
You made a statement there that a lot of times women lose that ability to dream, right? If you could,
And
yeah,
men too.
yeah,
But I work with women so much that I just talk women.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, same here. And yeah, it's not about one gender or another. It's just kind of a habit that happens, right? But if you could just like take yourself and remove yourself out of the moment you're in, and allow yourself to just drift. And sometimes I take clients through the pretend world, because if you ask them to visualize or see this, they draw a blank. But everybody knows what pretend is, right? And so it's like, okay, so let's pretend that you're 5 years old or that you're 10 years old. Take them to different levels. As that little 10-year-old, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to experience in the world when you grow up? And they start talking more fluently, and you can see those dreams starting to come alive, the expression on their faces and the energy that's happening in the relaxation, because they're dreaming again. They're pulling out what they once had in that safety zone at 10 years old. Because at 10 it's like, whoa, the whole world is ahead of you, right? But if you're out here now and you're 30 or 40 or 50 and you've lost that, when you can pretend you're 10 again, it comes back to life. And then move that into whatever age it is that you're now here in the moment, and make that dream a reality, because it can happen. It's never too late, right? It's never too late, right?
Yeah, and you have to make it happen now,
Right.
because who knows if there's ever going to be a tomorrow.
That's right.
People live too much in worrying about what they need to do this month, or what needs to be done in the next year, than living in the now and what you want to do now. But that's a whole process of learning how to do that.
Yeah, it sure is. It's being in the present,
Yeah.
because so many people do live in the past. And if you want your future to be different than your past, then you better start living in the now, because this is where the change has to take place. is right here in the now present. Otherwise, you dwell on that, what you conceive and believe and what you keep on thinking about is what you're going to have. What persists exists, right? So where is that, and if you're in your past, your tomorrow is going to be identical to yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it is a whole different process. It can happen though.
It doesn't have to take a long time either.
No, and again, that's choice. You can
yeah. Like you have to be open to allowing somebody to help you through it.
Yeah, exactly. And that again goes back to what we talked about earlier, is feeling worthy and deserving of that for yourself, right? To be able to do that, gift that to yourself and not feel guilty about it or shameful about it, right? But to honor yourself, honor that, because once you
open the door, once you've like made the investment in your first coach and open that door, you never turn back. Because I think the important thing is to remember that you finding somebody that resonates with you, because here's the reality is that I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Like, you have to find somebody that their message resonates with you, the way they approach stuff, because I'm no fluff. I'm like straight up, here's how it is. This is what you do. I'm not a cheerleader.
Right?
Yeah. I'm not your accountability coach. I'm not your cheerleader.
Right.
I'm here to get you transformation.
Right.
That's what I'm here for. And that's, if I trigger you, good, because that means I'm doing the work. You're doing the work, and we're getting past it. Triggers are good things. But sometimes people, when they're first starting out, need more of a nurturer, need somebody that's full of feminine energy, that's really, more like soft-spoken and just not, I have a lot of masculine energy. I'm more masculine a lot of the time. Doesn't mean I'm not compassionate. I just show it differently. But you have to find that right person. And once you open that door, then you're never looking back. Like, I've spent way more, every year I invest more and more money into my own development. And I will until the day I die, because if I want to experience the most that I can in this life, in this one lifetime here in this body, I'm going to keep pushing myself, keep learning. I never want to go without.
Right.
I want somebody always pointing out my blind spots, because I can elevate my consciousness to a point that's just remarkable. If I can do what I've done in the past 5 years, I've come so far. Like, how much further? Like, I want to go all the way.
Okay. And then when you think you're all the way, there's more, right?
Right?
It never,
limitless.
it is limitless, and so don't put yourself in that little box. Take those walls of that comfort zone and delete them, right? And step out into the world and step into your power, and it can be a little bit shaky, a little bit scary at first, because it's foreign. It's foreign from the norm of what we're used to. I mean, when you look at what's happening today, right, we are kind of forced into something, and we don't like being told what to do. But there's personalities. There's a lot of different personality modalities out there, that are you a red, are you green, are you a blue, are you a yellow? Where are you and how do you perform? Because we're all different. Some people, like you said, need more nurturing, and they need that little slower pace. And then you have those that are like, I don't want the fluff. Just give it to me. Just, what do I need to do? Bing, 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 bing. Done. Okay, next, right? So, and you have 4 sides of the spectrum. And knowing where you are, when you can recognize what your personality is, you can recognize the coach or the assistance that you're getting is where their personality is. And so working from the end that we're coming from as a practitioner to lead you into different guidance things, it's good for us to know, what that personality is, and that can happen like really fast. You get to know exactly what that personality is. If you can work as a coach, if you can work into that level to be able to do that, but not all of us want to do that. It's like, you know what? That's not the type of person I want to be working with.
No,
And so
I
therefore
definitely,
you
yeah.
recommend someone else, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I can't work with everyone. Like I don't. There's not enough of me to work with everyone,
Exactly.
and you know, we have to resonate with each other.
Right.
And so I always offer like a consultation. If they're like, I'm not sure if we jive or whatever, I can be like, okay, well, let's jump on the phone and see.
Right.
Um, and then I can evaluate, you know, see if I have enough time on my schedule to work with them. But um, yeah, like I know better than to take someone who doesn't resonate with the message and the way that I work. It would be a disaster. It would be doing them a disservice, and it would
Exactly.
be hurting
Exactly.
their progress. So
Right.
I'm going to definitely connect them with a woman that does, because you know, we're all of us have a Rolodex of fellow friends and
That's right.
creators
That's right.
that
And
we can
right.
share.
And sometimes, you have your clients, they become loyal and faithful fans, or whatever you want to call them, right? Because you have taken them to a level, and it's like, and you say you don't want to do them an injustice at the same time, and it's like, okay, I've gotten you as far as I can go, and I know there's more in you, but where I'm at, I'm not the one that's going to be able to take you there. However, I know someone that goes this direction that can take you down there, because the things that you've been saying to me and asking for, that person has an expertise, a way of breaking that chunk of ice or that wall or whatever to get you there. And I would like to introduce you to her. And if you guys jive, great. If not, we'll see if we can find someone else to get you down that path further and be able to, use that assistance, because that shows too that, as coaches here, we're growing right alongside of you, right? Right alongside of you. And,
I would say,
yeah.
I wouldn't say right alongside. We're growing at the same time, but we're in a different
Well, we're
place.
different levels of growth,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so, yeah, it's not that we're on the same, on the same path and everything, but we, our greatest teachers are the students. And the students can sometimes be, the greatest teachers as well, right? So it's a give and take on every aspect as you're working through different things. And, so it's all about that unison and being able to connect with that person on that level, but to be able to, let them go and say, hey, it's time for you to jump out of the nest and start flying on your own, and maybe fly this direction or that direction, and advance. I have made some super friends with some of the clients that I've had, where we've reached that level, and now the friendship is kind of taken over, and it's like, okay, where do I go? And they'll come to me. Okay, Beverly, you know, I know this isn't your expertise, but I started studying some of this stuff, and I'm really interested. Do you know anybody that? And it's like, I don't, but I think I know someone that might. Or you say, oh yeah, I just met somebody, and you turn them on to that, and you're a connector, right? And that's all about that advancement. And like you say, you have a Rolodex. We all have a Rolodex, and again, you have your Rolodex over here for clients. You have your Rolodex over here for fellow practitioners, and it's like, what can you do to better serve that client? And you're going to make sure you're going to do the heavy lifting to make sure that when you recommend someone to someone you've been working with, to say, I'm going to have you talk with this person, because I feel that they can give you something that I'm not able to reach with you. And that's their level of expertise. To be able to do that, rather than being in that scarcity mentality, is like, no, these are mine. These are my clients, and you can't touch them. I don't want to know you, because if you talk to my clients, you'll take them away from me. And I remember back in the early 2000s, when I was traveling a lot and I was in different arenas, and when you come into an area and start meeting some of the practitioners there's all these little glitches, and they were very cautious because they had that feeling that, oh, who's this stranger coming to town that's going to take my clients away from me, and it's like, wow, there was so much of that. It just really kind of set me back a little bit, and that wasn't the intention at all. It was because I did a lot of teaching at the time, workshops and stuff, and not one-on-one, and my passion is still doing workshops to reveal your true identity, but also getting down into the nuts and bolts and the roots of where the root of that emotion is, to eliminate it. But actually, what the workshops is getting into the reality and the real spirit of who you are, so that you can come out and start recognizing these other things and be able to find someone that can, take you down that path to what it is that you're searching for, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Scarcity is a huge problem with a lot of people.
And we're definitely seeing it now, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like sometimes we're forced to do things that we never would have probably had the opportunity to. And I think a lot of people are being exposed to that in an uncomfortable way, right? We talked about, you have people that have social anxiety, right? Well, they don't have social anxiety anymore because they're told to stay home. Now they're in their element, right? And it's like, oh, this is great. I am so happy I could be here, and everybody says I have to stay here, and I'm all happy, right? And then you have the social.
But I don't think that that's true. I think if you have social anxiety, you still have challenges around this, because if you're struggling, period.
Well, you're going to
You
have,
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. But the comfortability
I mean, if you're
is,
an introvert, maybe,
yeah.
but you know what I mean?
But I'll tell you, I think the majority of people are social. They're socialites, and to be able to have to, to be locked in a little space, right? Whether it's with yourself or with family members or roommates or whatever the case is, right? It's like, wow, what do you do? And it's given an opportunity to really start to know more about yourself and know more about your family. What are your kids doing, right? Or the different connections with your spouses. It's a whole nother world we have here. And we're given free time that was filled up with busyness that we can, whoop, she disappeared. That can be, looked at from a different perspective, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, the life we live can be interesting. So, gosh, Lynn, it has been a delight having you on the show.
Thank you.
Right?
I look forward to staying connected.
Definitely. Technology finds a way to do that, right? Right? And so there's different levels of it. And who knows, I just get back out there to upstate New York and come by and see you. I recognize that name. I think we either drove by it or we actually went through that little town or something, but it's beautiful country up there. Wow. Watching all the fall colors and stuff. And we went through Maine, and because I was talking about Maine, the colors of Maine and everything. It's like we're out there right in the heart of it, and you're like, wow, yeah, okay, it was beautiful. But as we started going into New Hampshire and then into Vermont and then across into upstate New York, it was almost like everything became even more brilliant and in depth, with the oranges and the reds and the yellows. I mean, and being out in nature, I'm a nature girl anyway, right? And I grew up in the Midwest, so I know what colors are all about. But every state has a different color when it goes through. And I guess my favorite place up in New York, upstate, was when we went up to the falls. Right?
Which ones?
Niagara. Yeah.
So I'm about 2 hours from there.
Okay.
I'm not far. I'm
Yeah.
sure you went through our area to get there.
Yeah, we probably did because we came across the top of New Hampshire and Vermont, and then we were in upstate New York, and then we came down like along the lake and stuff before we went into the falls. And I that was kind of one thing that was on my bucket list, for a long time was to. I love waterfalls anyway, right? Is to see the ultimate waterfall, which was Niagara, and it was so breathtaking. We went down underneath the falls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you could look up over the top of them. It's like, wow. It was just, the power of that water. And it just
Mm-hmm.
keeps on coming, thousands and thousands and thousands of gallons of water coming over this massive falls, right? And it doesn't stop. It's like, where's it coming from? Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like it's on a recycle thing, it comes back around, and then we actually got on one of the little boats, Maiden of the Mist or Mist of the Maiden
Yep.
or something like that, right?
Maiden of the Mist. Yeah.
Okay, and as we were floating out to that along, the winds were picking up and whatever, and the volume of the water, coming down from the mist, right, coming at you was so intense. It almost hurt because it hit so hard,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't look like there was that much water splashing out there, but man, when you got into it, it's like you were just drenched,
Mm-hmm.
and thank goodness it was a warm day,
Mm-hmm.
but it was amazing. It was so fascinating to be able to be in that and feel that ionic charge, and I so loved it. I will get back to the falls. That's my goal, is someday to get back to the falls again. It was just so beautiful.
Yeah, we go about once a year. It's energetic.
Oh, very much so. Where I grew up in Iowa, we had it was called the Grotto of Redemption, and it was a city block, 3 stories high, built out of rocks from all over the world. And this started back in the 1920s. I was a young priest, and he was on his deathbed, and he had a talk with Jesus and said, if you spare me my life, I will build this grotto in representation of you, right? And obviously he lived, and he continued, to follow through with what he did. And it is the most beautiful display of rocks from all over the world. Crystals that are just like super gigantuan, and then this was,
You'll have to put the link in the comments so that we can see it.
oh, it is so beautiful. And I grew up around it because I think we lived like 15 miles from there, but I had an uncle that lived on one side of the grotto and one on the other. It's a very small town. There might be, oh gosh, maybe 1,000 people back then, if that many, right? And to go into that and to run around, and at that time I didn't know the energies that stones can bring and everything, right? And but to be able to be a part of that. And my one uncle actually cut a lot of the stones
Ooh,
and the
nice.
agates and stuff. Just breathtaking, and I was always into stones. I'd always, pick up rocks whenever we went on vacation or something like that, because I had family lived in Montana, and so we would drive from Iowa to Montana, and so now you're out in the mountains picking up rocks and stuff. So, but to be able to really look back on that and the beauty that's in it, the story, of course, is the life of Jesus, right? And one thing that has always just stuck in my mind the most about the grotto was the Stations of the Cross, right, where Jesus made his last walk,
Right.
And these, oh my God, they were built probably, I want to say, 20 feet high. And the picture that was depicted behind each scene was made out of mosaic, and that's all rock, all shaved little pieces of rock of color in this mosaic, and they were like 1/2-inch little squares all put together in those. And it's so breathtaking when you see that was actually stone up there, not pieces of paper colored or painted or anything like that, but actual stone. To see the artwork, it should be one of the wonders of the world because it's so fabulous. I will put that link in here today that people can go and actually check on it, because they do have videos that you can check out online. And
Yeah, I want to see it.
yeah, it's so beautiful. So, and that's one of the things I really love with my position I put myself in is to travel. I've been on the road since '97, and I can honestly say now I've been in every single state of the union. Yay, right, including Hawaii and Alaska, and to be able to see the beauty in every place that I've gone, and just seek out the history. This planet we live on is priceless, and to be able to allow Mother Nature now its opportunity to refresh itself, so everyone's staying home, there's so much less pollution out there, right? Especially from cars and everything,
Yeah, there was oh, I'm not going to go into it now, but yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Less pollution.
Yeah. So let's save that one for another day, right?
Yeah. Well, it was super fun.
Yes, it was.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for joining us, and comment below, if you loved what Lynn had to say, if you want to know more about what she does. Let me pull this little picture up here. It's got her website on it and her name and everything. Write it down. We'll also put it up in the delivery box up on top when we get finished here. But reach out to her, comment below, private message her. If either one of us can be of assistance to you, if you have questions, I promise you they'll get answered. But we can't answer them if you don't put them out there, right? So
Exactly.
Make your comments, reach out, and make it a great day wherever it is that you are. And now it's time to do what? It's time for you to go out there and be that best you that you can be. And why is that? Because Lynn and I are going to go out there and we're going to be the best we that we can be, right? So thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you on the next show.